Hey everyone, welcome to Two Guys Making Tribe, where Gen X meets Gen Y. Enjoy the show.
Well, you see a common thing, being out where I meet a lot of people online and in person, and they're like, oh, I wish I could meet like-minded people. And sometimes I want to sit there and say, well, what do you consider like-minded? What, have all the same political beliefs? Believe all the same conspiracy theories? You know, have the same memes and phrases about this president or that president? It should be about, hey, I like to go hiking. I like to go camping. I like to cook from scratch. You can bridge a gap. So it kind of goes on to when I was talking about earlier. It's up to us to bridge the gap. Okay. Now it takes two people to tango, but we're the ones with the wisdom, right? Because we have the experience. So that's why I say it's up to us as Gen Xers to bridge the gap with the millennials.
Right.
Okay. And if you want them to be more in line with you, well, that's not going to happen. We're different generations. We're never going to be in line. They're not going to be Gen Xers, okay? But you can bridge the gap by utilizing some connections there. So, as preparedness people, we want food security, okay? Now, do we want 20 cases of ramen noodles and 50 cans of little pork sausages, neither of which are healthy at all? No, but people in preparedness will buy that stuff because it's cheap. You can do it in increments and what have you.
It's better than nothing.
Okay, right.
It's better than starving.
Okay, but
Yeah.
rice is a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Rice and beans. Okay, well it is to millennials too. You want to know why? Because they go to Chipotle. Okay, so
I've never eaten at a Chipotle.
Chipotle's pretty good. A little expensive, but everything's expensive now. My kids love it. Okay, my little Gen Zers, my Zoomers. Um, but you can bridge that gap. So if you take the stereotypes of a millennial, they want to eat organic, non-GMO.
Whole
They
Foods.
huh?
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods, right? So eating food that's healthy and delicious, okay, is important to them. It's important to us too, just in a different way. We're big on working pantry, right? And for the really deep preppers, it's about cooking from scratch,
Right.
having the raw ingredients. Well, that's something that the millennials can relate to. Okay, so these are just like some examples that you can bridge that gap. I had hosted a hiking, you know, uh, walk in Florida. Okay, I always get a hard time from people that have hiked in Georgia or Carolinas. Well, can you hike in Florida? Well, I'm naming off all these places. Well, that's kind of just walking in the woods. Well, you know what? You're doing the same thing in the Georgia mountains just with an incline. Okay, something is better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but you could hike for health or for the scenery. Okay, but also for the camaraderie. Okay,
Hippie
but
babes.
huh?
For the hippie babes.
Yeah, but I posted, hey, I'm looking to host a hike up in Brooksville, looking for people that want to come and join. Nothing about preparedness or political or nothing like that. And it was probably like 6 or 7 people that were like millennial age, okay, and one guy that was a stereotypical prepper guy, and then one of my friends showed up. Okay, so we went on a hike, and I told my friend and the guy that I knew was a prepper just by telling him, this is not a prepper thing. Don't act like a prepper. Okay? That means no political, none of that stuff.
Don't scare the normies.
Right. And because the normies are really the largest portion of the population. And, you know, and if you can't sit there and have a conversation while you're hiking and not talking about FJB or J6 or, whatever narrative is being spinning out there, then something's wrong. You don't have enough depth or breadth
Right.
in your intellect. Okay. Um, but we just talked about all kinds of stuff. And they had mentioned a website it escapes me right now, where they analyzed, the hardness score, or the hardness is not the word, but how hard it was,
Right.
okay, for the game, and they all got ratings and stuff. Okay, to a Gen Xer, unless you were into games, you would think, what kind of clown millennial thing is that? But I thought that was pretty cool, and it's important to their generation. Why? Because they play all kinds of board games, and there's so many more board games that they have available that we played Sorry and
Life,
Uno,
Monopoly.
Life, right? Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of times the millennials will look at things from an intellectual perspective, okay? And just we as Gen Xers cannot keep thinking that every millennial is a lefty
Right. No,
and
that's
is
true. That's true.
out there with purple hair, thinking they're a hawk, okay, or a furry or whatever else that they're thinking.
There's nothing wrong with furries. Wait a minute. I've seen some pretty hot furries. Don't little cat girl.
Those are all fun for TikTok. But, our focus needs to shift to where can we find connection versus difference, you know? And I really don't want to find a whole bunch of people that are just like me. You want to know why? Because I'm a flawed human being, okay? And I don't want to live in an echo chamber.
Right. Right.
I don't like to swim in an echo chamber when it comes to politics or anything that's out there. I like to have a diverse group of friends. Okay, and diversity is not just, hey, you're white or you're black, okay, or Hispanic, or you're gay, straight, or bi. I grew up in the hood and I live in the suburbs, or I'm rural. It's just the diversity of human beings, okay, and what they bring to the table. Are they willing to get out there and feed some chickens? Because you know what? I don't have a farm, and I know Brendan does. There's probably like 100 different tasks he's got to have done every day. Okay, and it don't matter if you're a crusty old 60-year-old, guy who likes to play on Facebook with memes. Okay, if you can't feed them chickens, then what good are you to me?
Well, it's like my son. I introduced him 2 days ago to the movie The Postman with Kevin Costner.
Justin.
And, not that he's the greatest actor in the world, but that was a pretty good movie for the post-apocalyptic, type of like genre. And especially the part where they had the postal hub actually working there, and that one old Vietnam vet who was like 68 and he got sworn in, and Costner's character is like, "Can you ride?" Because they rode horses to do the mail, and he's like, "No, and some days I can barely walk." He says, "So why are you here?" "I know things." This guy knew tactics, and even though he's too old to do it himself anymore, he could teach. And my son picked that up immediately. And I'm not there yet age wise, but my son, he's like, that's you in the future. You may not be able to do because bad back, whatever, this, that, or the other, or, you're 70 years old at some point, but that knowledge is there. And for my son to pick up on that immediately, see that everyone has value, even if you're too old to run and gun, but he can teach guys how to ambush, and he can sit up in a crow's nest and pink, 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 do what he has to do. And so yeah, I mean, if we can bring these people on board and teach them the right way, but also take from what they have, because everyone has something to offer. My son brings things to me sometimes. He's going to be 14 in January, and he'll look at something sometimes. Gen Xers always think that we think outside of the box, and we do, because we had to, play with dirt, but he'll bring something up to me sometimes, and I'm like, wow, I never thought of it that way. That's a good one, kid, And so, he and I have although my wife isn't sure who's the kid half the time. Half the time we end up like getting ourselves in trouble, and she gives me that look like, you're the parent, and and I'm like just as dirty or messed up as he is, and I'm like, but yeah, I mean, you have to take everybody, regardless of their background, because everyone has something to offer, unless they're a pedophile. Then we just feed them to the pigs.
They don't count as people.
Right, exactly. We just feed them to the pigs.
That's their contribution.
Pigs have to eat.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe and share with your friends. We will see you next time.